Welcome back to Texas Tea, where I talk with local Texas entrepreneurs, hustlers, and prodigies about how they became successful. Today's guest will take your interior from failing to fabulous. Olevia Nguyen. I know,
Nice to meet
drum
you.
roll. I gotta get some drums in here. Nice to meet you a second time.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, I think we're gonna go over today how to become an interior designer.
Mm-hmm.
So, before we go into the really deep story of your life and how you became a lover of interior design, for those who may have clicked or started to listen and were like, man, you know what? Interior design is my passion. What would be like the most prominent piece of advice that you would tell them?
Well, I would say that it's not easy, first of all, like finding your calling, right? You have to go through so many do's and don'ts and like careers that may not work out. But actually, for me personally, I've found a love for interior design as a little kid. And I kept putting it off the back burner. It's just like, you know what? They don't really make that much money. And like, even when I told my mom, she was just like, you're going to be an artist? You're going to starve on the streets? And I'm just like, well, since you put it that way. No, I mean, it's a very lucrative business, and there's a lot of great artists that has made something of themselves in the business. And so it was after going through a lot of failed different studies in my college years, I revisited the interior design, and I went to art school here in Houston and just fell in love with it. And I knew it was something that, God was calling me to.
So your advice would be figure out for sure it's what you want to do by dipping your toe in a lot of different things.
Exactly.
Initially.
Yeah, I think so. Because without you failing hard, failing first, failing forward, you won't be able to know what you need to do. And so I think those necessary, failures, you need to revisit all that you think that you would like and then filter out what works for you and what doesn't work.
Right. Now that makes sense. So get a sense for what else is in the world, and it will allow you to double down on interior design if that's the passion.
Yeah, and in the meantime, while you're discovering it, you may pick up a skill that actually integrates within what you're doing, and so it all works out.
Got you. Okay, awesome. So this path that you speak of. So how did Olevia Nguyen go and become a win-win situation from the very beginning?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's just like an ongoing journey, and just like self-discovery. But it's important for us to know what you want to do, know where you want to go with it. Because without you knowing where you want to go, you won't know who to take with you. And so I think with just meeting a lot of different people, surrounding yourself with people that you really inspires you, that you look up after, and just asking really smart questions. Ask all the questions, do all the listening, no talking, right?
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that.
And so that's what's really helped me. And from that, whenever I felt like, I was ready, and you'll probably know when you're ready to start, and you won't have all the answers right away. And that's okay.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you expanding on that. I meant specifically what was your story and how did you get to interior design eventually? Because you said you were passionate as a kid. So, well, let's touch on that first. How come you were so passionate as a child in interior design?
Well, I think it was a hobby. It was a hobby. And
rearranging
yeah, I was just
the Nguyen family furniture all the time.
I know, and everyone was thinking it was just an Asian thing with feng shui, but even I fell for it, and so I didn't know what it was. Growing up in an Asian culture, having the assumption that I was supposed to be a doctor, a dentist, all the different stereotype Asian careers, and so it wasn't until like the other careers just didn't work out, then I was just like, you know what? I really noticed that I like being an artist. I like being creative. And that's where I wanted to, create an environment for people to build their best life with their surroundings. And interior design definitely brought that. And it was the relationships in those businesses that empowered people to create and to promote health and well-being in their spaces. And that's why I love doing what I do.
So you realize that you can almost impact and change people's mood and lives from how their place of safety, place of happiness, place of warmth looks, essentially.
Absolutely. And, I think the common myth about interior design is just that maybe throwing pillows around and just picking swatches, but there's a lot of information on the back end and education that, we're being trained in school and the software that's required for us to be able to analyze a space, to be able to propose the most optimum environment for a particular industry or individual that promotes their well-being.
So it sounds like it's more of a sales position than it originally most people would think, because it seems like you need to dig into how a person is and what they want before you even suggest, which is very, very much, if you're a good sales consultant, you figure out what they need exactly for them specifically or their business.
It's funny. We have a saying in our art school is that we don't sleep in the bed. We just create it.
Yeah.
Okay. And because of those long hours, it's working on those projects and identifying with our client. And maybe some interior designers have lived with their clients just to get a better understanding of them.
Really?
And their environment.
This has really happened?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not your everyday babysitter. I guess you get a 2-for-1, right?
Yeah.
Where you're eating a salad and it's like, so you chose green pasta. Does that mean you like green? No, but I mean, it's really helpful. It allows us to be able to understand, and it's more of a psychology thing. So I think color psychology and understanding that person from a psychological standpoint and their environment and what works for them actually helps you with your job and understanding what they like and don't like.
Yeah. So you're almost a bit of a hybrid of sales consultant and psychologist.
We're the interior whisperer.
The interior whisperer? The couch whisperer?
Yeah, couch whisperer.
Pillow whisperer?
It was not the dog.
It was not the dog. Yeah, just make sure you keep that dog off that white couch. So you really got to dig into, kind of like you said, the psychology. And I'm guessing that means if you want to become an interior designer, you really have to, from the get-go, decide whether or not you like people. Right?
Well, I think that's almost in every industry. Well, maybe not all.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
you do have to ask some questions.
Yeah.
And so like asking those questions, it enables you to understand what they like, don't like, in order for you to go back to your work and just say, okay, is this a good fit for them?
Yeah.
So you may have to ask questions. You won't have to live with them, hopefully,
Yeah.
unless they request
in
that.
some cases.
In some cases, just like as I mentioned, but for the majority of the part, everything's a relationship base.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think if you're having a hard time, or maybe you're an introvert, then I would probably explore different areas of interior design, because like the 2D CAD part where you're generating floor plans.
Yeah.
That's the aspect of interior design that maybe if you're an introvert, you would absolutely enjoy. Just behind the computer, behind the desk, just pushing out drawings. That's great. But as for the most part, a lot of interior designers, it's a one-on-one relationship. So expect to go out on site, expect to intermingle with the vendors. You're bidding different deals, different proposals, and getting the best deal for your client, because really you're their consultant. And a lot is at stake, because if you miss the space by a couple of inches, that will throw off the entire construction budget, and that is a no-no. And in the commercial world, that is a major mistake, could cost you your job.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, inches definitely matter 100%. I would think in interior designing just as much as football, but
there you go.
Costly. It could go from a catch to out of bounds, right? So it could go from perfect fit to no job.
Well, we like to always make the touchdown, right?
That was like a real dad joke right there. I enjoy a good dad joke every now and then. I probably say way too many, but back to what you were saying about getting everything that fit perfectly, and you talked about commercial spaces, and I think those are probably very high dollar situations, and you can make a lot more mistakes there. But you could probably have even greater of an impact, I would think, because a commercial space, especially if it's retail or it's a restaurant, it's going to be impacting thousands of people that come through those doors. So aside from just the owner, who you got to figure out what they want, how do you figure out the impact that a commercial space is going to have? Do you have to figure out the type of customers that are going to come in, who's going to likely be liking that place? Like, how do you go past what the owner wants and also think about what the clientele is going to be?
That's a great question. And usually you start off by what we call programming, where you're just interviewing, you're just listening. That the first part of that relationship.
Interviewing the owner or his clientele or her clientele?
The client.
Okay.
The client. So the individual, the end user is what we call it. And you're just asking them different questions and just getting a better understanding of their vision, what they like. And then you go back to your desk and you're thinking, okay, what are they really saying? Because sometimes, the end user may say one thing, but they're exhibiting something else. And so that psychology that we had talked about, you kind of have to read in between the lines. It's a lot of guessing game. So I think determining what, based upon their needs, then you look at the market. Okay, what market are they in? Is it a realistic budget that they're asking for? Are they aware of this? What are some ways that I can make them more aware of X, Y, and Z? Okay, so let's provide a solution A, B, C, and then let them pick, because too many options can overwhelm them.
So you're just kind of figuring out what they want. You're probably going to dig a little bit into who's coming through their doors. So you're taking their viewpoint, knowing what industry they're in and what the viewpoints of their customers might look like. Combining, so correct me if I think I'm getting this right, and combining so what they think, what you know about their industry, and coming up with some sort of a solution that merges the both, and then they decide yay or nay.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of it takes two to tango, right?
Yeah.
So we're not gonna know everything about every niche and industry. That's why we kind of rely on the end user to tell us, what are you looking for? What's your vision?
Right.
And then we come on our end and tell you, okay, this is your wish list, and this is actually reality. Based upon the budget.
Yeah. I got you. So it sounds like it's a very big juggling act, and then you also have to go draw it on CAD, right?
Yeah, which is part of the process, but planning everything ahead of time is key, because without those dollars right beside the material you're going to use, you won't even know if you can afford it.
Right. So you also have to, like you said, you have to figure out their budget so it fits all within there. So it's bringing, so you're juggling a few balls, and then all of a sudden another ball is coming in, and you got to make sure it all fits together. And you had said that you kind of help with the budget because you have those relationships with the vendors. You're negotiating on their behalf, and you're kind of forcing it to fit in. So it seems like it's people skills, sales consulting, a little bit of programming, and then negotiation skills.
And sometimes you're their therapist. I'm just kidding.
Well, you got enough couches for them. See, I got a good dad joke.
Precisely.
So, oh man, I lost the question that I was gonna have next. But for someone who is, hey, look, I really want to be an interior designer. Like all the industry is good and well, but what I've noticed for anyone that's trying to become an entrepreneur, start their own thing, they definitely come through a lot of struggles. And you were coming up through already adversity, people telling you, hey, you shouldn't do this because becoming an artist, you're not going to be able to eat, which is funny because they instantly say interior design artist. You are an artist, but at the same time, it's way more tangible of a service than finding a canvas and just hoping that you can create a following to buy your art. You're more, I wouldn't say industrial, but you're more of something that's used, I think, way more on a normal basis. But anyway, so you're coming through this adversity. I'd like to hear a story of when you were first getting into interior designing and you were like, holy shit, this is insanely overwhelming, and how you overcame it. That big smile says you already have something in your head.
So back in 2015, when I
Yeah.
opened up my business,
Okay.
way over my head.
Yeah. What part of it?
I had a bucket of dreams and maybe a cup of skills.
Nice.
You know,
Nice. Good ratio.
and so, nobody really gets trained at financial management. Nobody really, teaches you like economics. I mean, we did have those economic and sociology classes, but once it's being applied as an adult, it's a completely different animal.
It's really hard to look at the economic struggles of Western Europe during World War II and apply that to your own personal business.
Yeah.
So, we didn't really learn the right economics.
Right. And Monopoly doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Game boards don't count. It does help. But I think the real life experiences kind of like, it really made me grow substantially.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't know that until you actually dive into the business, which
Right.
I highly encourage. If anyone is interested in interior design, I would reach out to financial experts, business management consultants, different mentors that inspires you, and people that are a little bit older and more experienced to get an idea. Hey, I was just thinking about starting a business. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
And so that you can get an idea of the tools that you'll need to understand if I'm ready to even start, right? For me, I just jumped right in. Just like any entrepreneur that is, or artist that is just wanting those fast results and wanting to see it, wanting to have it and have it now, like I just want to get there already. Those are, phrases that you would hear of a hustler,
Yeah.
right? And so when I first started, I'll never forget, my first paycheck was like $100.
Nice.
And
That's more than 90.
I managed to turn that into $250,000 in sales within the first 8 months.
Wow, that's epic.
And so the lesson there was to keep putting yourself out there and introducing to people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're a one-person show, but you can do it. And so what I did was I took the business relationships that I had, drove around town and shook everyone's hand until they said yes.
Nice.
I didn't squeeze very hard, but one did come back.
Okay.
And a few of those deals that I closed came back substantially profit-wise. And right off of that, I realized what I was capable of. And it was just one of those things where you were in the right place at the right time. Whatever the end user was going through, they needed the help.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like you said right place, right time, but I always like to think of the fact that luck is not really luck. It's just putting yourself in as many situations as possible, and you're gonna hit one out of the park. So you said you did you squeezed a lot of hands, not too tight, but you had found someone who came back kind of in spades. So what made you stand out with that person? How did that situation go, and why did they say Olevia is the absolute best and I need to keep doing business with her?
The first impression
Yes.
is the last impression.
Yep.
Presentation, an introduction, that's all it takes. I walked in the office just choosing colors for them for free.
Nice.
They needed the help. I came back with a palette in a couple of hours, and it had more than what they were asking for.
So you said they need, so first of all, how did you first meet this individual? I don't know if you can talk about them.
Yeah, sure. Now, I won't disclose the company, but it was the guy that I was dating at the time was actually doing business with them selling furniture.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, can you just like pop in and just like make a couple recommendations of paint? I'm not sure if it'll help. They already have a designer, or they already have a general contractor that's helping them pick all the finishes.
Okay, so they were selling furniture, and at the time, your boyfriend was saying, hey, look, they're really terrible with the colors on the furniture. You can probably do better.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, just walk in there, like, do your magic, do your thing.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was still holding that $100 check, going
Yeah.
like, okay, this is a start. I hope it turns into something. Let's see
Right,
what
right.
happens. And so this project really, it was a breakthrough for me, because I was able to create a lot of different avenue streams within that service. I'm talking about like services, products, consultation,
Yeah.
and furniture merchandise were all part
Furniture
of.
merchandise. What's that?
Yeah, it's just basically helping them select furniture, whether it's their commercial furniture or the soft goods, the things that you see in the lobby or the reception area.
Oh, got you. Okay,
Right, because it's
cool.
not residential.
Okay. So even though they were selling furniture, right? Did I get that correct?
Well, the guy that introduced me to the client,
Well,
he was selling commercial
okay,
furniture.
I got a
right,
little
right.
turned around there. Okay, so he was selling commercial furniture to that location, and he'd come into that location, and their colors were way off.
Yeah, I mean, they
Okay.
needed the help. And so I
Okay.
just came in and just offered a, quick presentation, and they fell in love with it.
Okay.
And they actually brought me onto the team, and I started
Oh.
meeting up with them, every week in their
awesome.
construction meeting.
Oh,
And
awesome.
it was just phenomenal, just building that relationship. And that's when it started expanding, the relationships, the contacts,
Okay.
and that's how it grew.
Okay.
The
awesome.
the adversity in that was not really doing the research that I should have had on the front end.
Okay.
And so rolling with the punches is not always the best. You always have to plan in advance and knowing what needs to go into that. And so my mistake was bringing contractors on board that I misinstructed what to build. And we had to destruct everything, and that came out of the company's pocket. So that was kind of my lesson. I think having an education and being a little bit more experienced at that time,
Right.
I just had hopes and dreams, and I was a go-getter. I'll work you under the table,
Yeah.
And so I think with that passion and that resilience, it landed me the job. But you need to have some sort of foundational and fundamental skills and experience to execute.
So going to interior design school is probably a good first step. So rolling back to what we were talking before, once you figure out, hey, interior designing is insanely what I want to do, you might say, hey, you know what? Maybe just take a little bit more time, get the knowledge, and but you still have to have the hustle as you had, of course.
Absolutely. It's a combination of all. And what I will say to anyone that is interested in interior design, I would probably go to a community college that offers the technical software skills,
Right. Okay.
but the experience that you can apply on the field, it has to be the firms. Like
Gotcha.
start as early as you can. I don't
Okay.
care if it's an internship. Get a
Yeah.
job somewhere so you can get your feet wet, make those mistakes, and get back out there and do it right again.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. So it's get the education on the low.
I mean, some of these private schools, they're quite pricey. They're not as
Yeah.
preferred, but I mean, looking back at it, I no regrets.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Oh, so I must have missed a beat. So you did go
To a private school.
to a private
Yeah.
school
Mhm.
for interior design.
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
my bachelor's.
Got you. Okay. See, now I'm 0 for 2 on mishearing things, so I'm doing perfect right now. I'm hitting it out of the park. But you would say, it's really funny that you say that. You would say, hey, look, go to community school to get that. It's I got my bachelor's in engineering, so I actually tell everyone, hey, look, don't go to a private school to get your engineering degree. If you really want to go to a private school, get all your electives, get everything math-wise,
Right,
science-wise in
right.
the community school. It's just really not worth it. And I think a lot of people, and I'm going to roll this into what you're saying about getting an internship, a little, I guess, advice from me in general is people would say, hey, the only reason why you got those jobs is you're from BU. You went to Boston University. And I said, no, ma'am. No, sir. The reason why I got those internships is what I did is I made a list of every possible engineering and manufacturing company in Connecticut and cold called every one of them until I got an internship. I got an internship at 3 and chose one of them.
Wow.
So if anyone's listening and they are, like, shoot, well, I do all this, but like, how am I going to get in a firm? Like you said, figure out every interior design firm and send in your resume if you can, and then pick up the damn phone and call them and just be like, hey, I love interior design. Here's the reason why. I'll come there and I'll do whatever you need me to do. I just want to get the experience, and I really like your firm because XYZ.
Business owners want to see that you're persistent.
Correct.
And they want to see that you exhibit that passion and that drive to continue to pursue them.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, you may not hear back from them or a follow-up email like the first 2, maybe 3, 4 a couple of times.
Yeah.
But,
that's right.
Dropping in, saying hello, maybe dropping off lunch for them, or if you have that relationship with someone in the firm, and eventually that will come to fruition, and then you can build that relationship, because everybody likes to hire who they trust.
Correct. That's a big thing. Aside from hiring, also getting the clientele. You came in there and you brought swatches with no expectation, essentially. You're just like, hey, look, you have a problem. I'm going to try to solve it for you, right? And then they saw the willingness that you were going to put into it. So you're building rapport. You're building that relationship. And I think people will find when you're genuine and you genuinely want to help, they'll take it as, okay, this is a good person. If you go in, what is it called? Sales breath. If you go in desperate and you really have the mindset of selfishness, right? And you're like, I really got to close this deal. I really got to get this money. They could smell it on your breath, as I say.
I think it's an approach. That's actually a really good point, because you don't want to go in screaming, I need to pay my babies. I have bills on tape. No, it's just, doing your diligence and just being professional about it, and just letting them know, like, I'm really interested in your company. I'm hoping that there's an opportunity for me in the future. And you do that a couple of times, and eventually someone will have to say yes.
Eventually, yes.
Eventually. You just got to be resilient, man.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that sounds like you're pretty resilient with getting clientele as well. So what was so that one that you had a really good relationship and a really good working relationship with, don't know the name of the company, but you also said you went out and prospected other locations, other potential clientele. How were you going out and approaching them? What was your essential value proposition as an interior designer?
I've noticed when I first started sending them proposals, that's when I've gotten a lot of look backs. Okay. That's when they started looking back, and just.
So you would go into a location without them being a client, obviously, and you gave just suggestions. Hey, this is what I would do.
Yes.
Okay.
So that would probably be like the warm call, or there's a cold call and there's like a warm lead.
Right. Okay.
Right. There's a cold lead, warm lead. That would be a warm lead. The cold lead would be calling them up to schedule an appointment.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
And then the warm lead would be, I'd love to give you, just a free consultation, or maybe they'll invite you out to the property to get a few of your ideas, but they haven't exactly signed the contract. That would be a closed deal.
Right. Okay. Got you. So if I'm thinking about this correctly, then, so instead of just being like, hey, can I get an appointment with you because I want to be your consultant? You're like, hey, I'm going to swing by and just give my thoughts, and you can take them or leave them. It doesn't matter. It's like you're basically giving a free consultation, and then if they like what you see, then you move to trying to get them to sign a contract.
No, absolutely, because I think in the digital age where we're at right now, it's basically a YouTube video on how to start your business, right? In a 3-minute clip, only you're meeting them in person.
Oh, got you.
Let me give you a free trial of what my services could be like, and if you're interested, click the subscribe button, aka sign on the dotted line.
Yeah, exactly. Sign on the there you go. Perfect. I don't think I've ever said sign on the dotted line. I have given someone a pen and just pointed to where it was, though. It's only happened a couple times. But so you have you ever gone cold, or sorry, have you ever just seen a business that you want to work with and just like waltzed on in there?
I did.
Okay.
That's how I landed with some of these deals.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal. So that's why I said I was at the right time at the right place. Yeah. They were, their current relationship wasn't working out.
Yeah.
And they released their current vendor.
Yeah.
and were seeking other resources.
Right.
Brought me in, loved the presentation, loved the style, and that's how they hired me on.
Got you. Remember, it wasn't luck. It wasn't right place, right time. It was just so many, and it happened to be one of them, right? So when you walk into, like, let's say you're perusing around Decorative Center of Houston on the 9th floor for some reason. I don't know why you'd be on the 9th floor, but you just you walk in here. I know no one can really see this, but like, what are the things you're looking for that you can start creating this portfolio in your head that you're like, you know what, like, I think you guys can really do this and that? Because let me back up. I'm guessing you first need to know what the goal of the company is, right?
Absolutely.
So in this case, you see, I would assume you'd say, hey, what do you guys do here, right? And then you're like, oh, you're a brokerage. You're gonna have a lot of salespeople here. So now you know that whatever you bring has to help us grow our sales team.
Absolutely. And I think that principle applies to almost any industry. Yeah. You want to listen out to the end user first and review with them, gather their thoughts, their vision, their goals, and you have to really pay attention and listen, because sometimes there are hidden keywords that they're using that will help you create results that they're looking for that even they may not have identified with yet.
Okay.
And so until things start slowly piecemealing together, then they'll look at the ending result and just say, oh my gosh, I didn't get it. I didn't get what you were doing that whole time. But now that I see the entire room complete, right, I love it. And so imagination.
How do you talk someone off the ledge if they're anxious about what you're doing and they can't really see the full project yet?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We almost have to do that every time. Yeah. It's more so like you're standing in a room and there's gun points at either ends of the room, because nobody really wants to take the blame if, right, one person costs higher than the other person.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to lock the door and just say, okay,
lock the door.
Let's really talk about this.
Okay.
Vendor 1, 2, and 3. Like, why is your cost like this? Because this was our cost, and so you just kind of like hash out. And really, at the end of the day, it's a budget-driven project. So
you're saying that the vendors for the project tend to get more anxious than anything
It's
else.
the general contractors.
Okay,
that are in the project. There may be brokers that are involved into the deal, but that's the commercial sector. If you're just talking about a regular, homeowner, then maybe you are working with a general contractor or upholstery artist. But the high-ticketed projects happens within the electrical, the plumbing, and the material itself, the construction.
Right. So what it seems like the biggest concerns for these contractors is that it's all going to fit under budget, or maybe things aren't going to go the way you wanted to them, and they don't want to take the blame that the project's over budget or it's not going to work out the way you presented, right?
Right. And so we help them, kind of step off the ledge, like, okay, so let's debrief. Yeah. This is what you said you wanted, and this is what the cost was. And so it's not at all loss. Let's taper down what we want to remove. And so we always like to tell our clients, okay, create your wish list, your champagne taste, and then let's go back in and really do surgery on each line item and revisit the priorities of each of those items and say what you really need. Because at the end of the day, the client really has no, budget entail. They're just kind of, and rightfully so, just like anybody else, you're going to want to, exactly. You're going to want marble Calcutta, like from floor to ceiling. And it's just like, okay, maybe you can afford a corner.
So you're coming out, so you're coming out with a list of not necessarily needs, but wants. And then once they're like, hey, I want all these things, and the contractors aren't really involved yet, right? I would assume.
No, not yet.
Not yet. So you go to them, and you're like, this is how much it's gonna be, and they like shit their pants, and then you're like, okay, now we got to work it back, right? So they have an idea where it is, and you kind of perform surgery on their list. And then, so now you guys are ready to go. You have a budget. Now you got X number of contractors. Seems electrical and plumbing is going to be the most high ticket items, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
So you get everything going. And then things get dicey when one of the contractors feels like they can't get something that you need at the right price, or it's not going to work out how it was envisioned. And then all hell breaks loose and you have to just bring the whole serenity back into the room and calm everyone down.
Yeah, that happens all the time. And so what we do is called a preliminary budget, where after we gather all of the end users' needs and what they want, throw down, all of your must-haves. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we're going to send that list over to our GC, general contractor. Hey, can you bid this out? Sure. It's going to cost this much.
Right.
The architect or interior designer reviews that entire list and makes sure that each item is all there. And then you shoot it back to your client. Okay, this looks good. I'm a little concerned about line 2, 3, and 4. What do you think about that? And so it's a lot of, paper coordination and just a lot of emails back and forth and agreeing to a budget. But the bulk of our creativity in our office and what we do is moving around those funds without compromising the integrity of the aesthetics, which is key.
Right. Of course, interior design, artist. That makes sense. So it seems like there's almost going to be a constant relook at what's going on. You have a grand plan with a general set of nuts and bolts, but every now and then a bolt or a nut's not fitting right. But as long as things come out from a grandeur vision, it's all going to be okay. And you're in there, and there's just like the contractors could be upset, the client could be upset, and you have to be like, hey, trust me. And then all goes back to the reason why they picked you in the first place, because they realized that you were there to give them the best and most extensive value possible.
At the end of the day, we want to please the clients. And so there's going to be a lot of speed bumps, but you're going to go through them together each time, every time, and with that, those speed bumps and how successful you're able to hop over them depends on the returning customer, which is, majority part of our business. So it's very important to us to sustain that relationship all the way through and creating a realistic results for them.
Right. And speaking of, I was going to say, you're saying return business. So obviously, your best clientele is someone who's continuing doing more and more projects. So residentially, that's someone who's in investment, someone in investment properties. And I would think commercially, it's someone who is building out locations, right? So in the case, so you're not necessarily just going to like one business and being like, let me spruce up your place. It's more of, hey, let me help you spruce up all your clients all the time.
Yeah, because it depends on, the who you work with. So let's just say you're working with a commercial broker and his name is on over 30 buildings in just one city.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you want to work with that commercial broker? Like, hey, you're my new BFF, you know? And then to residential, it's going to be your either property investor or your general contractor, the person that's building the home. Their homeowners is great. We enjoy working with end users, but we're really seeing the excitement, the creativity really happen. If you want to get more experience, it's going to be working with those general contractors and those home builders, because they're building properties by a handful. And so that's where those turnkey projects come in. And now the trick is, how can we create a streamlined product without even thinking? Because to them, they can't afford to hire a designer. So I go into different real estate events and I tell them, what if I told you that you don't need to hire an interior designer and you get to still design and create a product without having to shop off the streets and still get the professional look?
So your value prop to those home builders is that, hey, look, you get to give options to your customers that are way above the notch of anything you've ever provided before. But the way that you're going to be able to afford that is my relationships with the vendors.
Yes. Well, the design firm has the relationships with the contractors, the
Right.
vendors, and the brokers, which is all helpful, and it can be great because the end user is coming to you to rely on you to have all those resources, and they may not have it. So you're just really there as a concierge, and we just basically color. That's what people like to think we do, but there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah, actually, when I think interior design, I think of all the furniture within and the layout, right? I honestly never even think about the colors. So like, but as you can see, didn't think about the colors in this room since it is as white as I am.
You know, for those that can't see, the room is literally a blank canvas, which can be a good thing.
Good and bad, for sure. So you came into our space, and it's pretty cool.
It didn't scare me off.
It didn't scare you off? Okay, that's good. So,
I was a little confused. I was in the right place.
Really?
I mean, I didn't see you, so I was just like...
Oh, yeah. It's very... I'm all the way in the back. They keep me in the back because I'm, a troll, so they don't want me to have me out front. Scare away the...
I mean, no dogs were coming at me, so I figured I was somewhat in the right place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No dogs allowed in the building, so we're trying to... sometimes. So you came into this space. For those who obviously cannot see our situation here, we have a huge mural of Be Someone, which is a iconic Houston thing for those who are not from Houston. We got a ping pong table, some leather couches, and we definitely have some awesome industrial furniture here, but we have a very open layout. What would you say you could do for Eastwood to make it even more attractive for potential salespeople?
I think you're trying to get a free service out of me. No.
No. I always try to get free service out of everyone.
No, we'd be happy to help. So, I mean, right off the bat, I would probably let me ask you this. What is your overall vision for the space?
I would like a place, because let me back up. Most of our salespeople are in the field. Obviously, was not the best of times when COVID happened for us, but they're in the field a lot, and when they are here, it would be best for them to be in a situation that feels super inviting, high energy, someplace they can kind of kick it after they've been really hustling out door to door, business to business, so on and so forth, in a place they could be super proud of and be like, hey, this is the office I get to work at.
That's great, because we're seeing a lot of these millennial office open concepts all over.
I'm on the millennial edge.
Well, we'll just say that you are one today.
Okay.
And it's becoming really popular because you want to create a space that encourages creatives to the office place, right? And to work for you and create a sense of home. And a home away from home.
Home away from home. I mean, yes, please. No one sleep here.
Well, they don't have to sleep here unless you have a sleeping pod, which can be okay.
We're not going that route.
You don't have siesta here?
No, there's no siestas at Eastwood. Just Taco Tuesday.
Right. So for those of you that don't see the room, it's a little bit more of an industrial type of setup, open plan. And so I would look at, okay, well, how is the lighting? Then I would look at the existing condition. And then I would go back to, the goal that you're trying to meet. And then I would say, okay, well, how can we achieve that? Let's visit some of the spaces and see if that's really what you were describing. And if it's lacking, we'll fill it and come up with some ideas that will to match to that vision that you have. So right off the bat, and you said inviting, right? I would say to maybe warm up the space a bit is to add a little bit more light, maybe towards the front.
Okay.
Especially with the office being located off of the west wing of the building, you can't really notice it. Walking down the hallway, especially with these vacant spaces.
Okay, so neon lights.
I'm not. Hey, they don't have to blink.
Okay.
Continuously. If you get my drift.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
But I think more of a lighter palette that will draw the eye into the space.
Okay.
That's like, oh, I want to go see what's down this hallway. I see a lot of light, and people are attracted to this natural lighting appeal.
So better lighting.
And so I know it's nighttime right now, but just even walking in, like, first of all, I knew to walk in because I saw this room. But if it was divvied up by walls, I would say, oh, okay, this is probably like a vacant warehouse.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known to walk in. So
that's the worst thing to hear.
I think maybe like keeping the front, I wouldn't say cozy, but adding like a rug and signage right before the desk with the logo that's backlit.
So we do have the backlit logo right there.
I would probably put it on the other end when people are coming off the elevators, which is in the other direction, and you have it faced across the room.
I fucked up.
No. I mean, it's an easy fix. That's just, little things. So that's something that we can do, just visiting each corner of the space and being intentional with, well, what makes sense? You're creating an experience for the end user.
Yeah.
That could be a customer. That could be your next client.
Right.
And you want to create, it's like Starbucks.
Yeah.
The sales starts when you park in their parking lot.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
moment you come out of that car and you're walking towards that door and you open up the door and that's that waft of like fresh coffee.
I know, right?
It just makes you like, and you hear that blender going off, as you're looking down the menu and you're just like, what do I want? I'm not in the mood for coffee, but I think I want one now, and just everyone's studying. So it's creating that experience for the customer. What would be inviting to them? Maybe adding a little bit of greenery as well, since most of the flooring here is concrete. Yeah, you want to soften up the space, adding a little bit of outdoor.
Okay. Outdoor and the indoor.
Yeah. Gotcha. I would say lighting and adding outdoor or natured aspects into an office building it will make a substantial transformation for people coming into the office.
Cool. Got like a maple tree right there.
Yeah, just like a big tree log striking right down the workstation. They don't even need a table.
They don't need to work anywhere. It's just on the tree.
Exactly.
Just okay, cool.
It's completely normal. Just
no seats. They just sit in the tree, like on the branches.
and they can just prop the laptop off of the branch.
We're next level. We're next level.
Don't do that. If you're just tuning in, don't do that.
That's next level millennial. Goes from open space to outdoor space. Open concept, outdoor concept. So, is there anything you liked about this space?
I love the industrial furniture.
Oh yeah, you really like this table. You said.
Yes. We're always looking for something unique that adds identity to the company.
I think this is a good pick. Actually, I got to dab up Mindy, my partner, for this one because we were originally going to do cold all steel, but this is way warmer.
Exactly, and that's a great point. So, like, as you can tell, all the flooring is concrete, right? So you wouldn't use the same material as furniture. You want to offset it. So bringing in the warmer space, you bring in the wood to offset the concrete.
Yeah, so we should have had like white ceilings, huh?
So if you really want to make it cozy in here, I'd probably throw up some faux greenery on the wall.
Faux greenery.
Yeah, FAUX. Okay, I mean they're called boxwood.
Okay.
And I mean you can just get it off of Amazon. It's super affordable, and you can buy them in large squares and just throw them up on the wall. You probably see it in a lot of restaurants.
Yep.
And
there's actually a restaurant called Tiny Boxwood.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I haven't been there, but I want to go there.
It's really delicious.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So you can use that and just put it on a wall as an accent, and it creates that outdoor feel.
Got you.
So
you want to contrast the space. It seems if you have something too bright, you want to bring it a little bit more down, dark wise. And if you have a place that's too dark, you need to bring in some more.
Yeah, depending on the location. So like if you're right by a window, but it's facing west, it's not going to get a lot of light. And so, I mean, we can work out those things with you, but right off the bat, I think these like dim lidded atmospheres is best suited for more of a lounge type of feel. So if you had like a couple of bean bags and maybe a rug and like a couple of ottomans as seats.
Ottomans.
That would be great for a low dim light.
Right.
Maybe with like a theater with like a TV. But
Right.
if you're coming right off the elevator into a space, I would say kind of, brighten it up a bit and let people know, hey, you belong here.
You belong here. We want you here. We want you here at Eastwood.
Yeah, we don't want it to be, we're here to murder your dogs. No, I'm just kidding.
No dogs. No dogs. No murder.
No dogs were harmed while taping this.
Exactly. They're at home. They're happy. Well, that's good. So I screwed up on the sign. Cool. That's good to hear.
I think it's a great space, though. It has a lot of potential, and it has great bones. I think also...
Oof, that always hurts. It has great bones when we're practically finished.
No, as in the foundation.
Oh, I got you.
You're right. And so, like, the glass, I really like what you did with the turned glass, because not a lot of people...
Yeah, that was
like,
a battle right
use
there,
this,
honestly.
right?
Because like they were originally saying, hey, like they wanted to put like
another slab.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it just wasn't going to be structurally okay. But then they made it work out. It was interesting. A lot of this was interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to create an open space, and so by adding glass instead of drywall is, the ticket, because if you didn't, then this room would look smaller.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But we're sitting in the room, and it feels like we're a part of the other space,
now,
but we're still divided.
If we wanted to add more offices, where should I put those? Where would you put more offices?
I would probably put it right beside the existing offices.
Oh, thanks. You're like,
yeah.
you idiot. You're like right beside your other offices. Okay, that wasn't a hard question.
Well, they've come up with different workstations, really neat setup. So it depends on the role of the person using the space. If it's a private office, then typically you would see it lined up along the windows.
Yeah.
And then you have the corridor.
Right.
Right beside that, then you see the individual offices.
I think we were worried if we built like another two offices here, it kind of kills the entrance from the windows. But if you keep it all glass, you still kind of get that situation, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're saying if you had an office.
Yeah, if we had offices here, it could kill the whole entrance of having all the people seeing.
Not necessarily. So let's just say this conference, this is perfect the way that it is, but in an alternative setting, I've seen a lot of conferences that are closer to the reception area.
Yeah, we thought about that too.
Now, it's really, I know it's really great just sitting right by the window, right? But with this really fantastic glass wall, you're able to see, people come in and they're able to see you do work, and that kind of, draws people in, like, oh, what are they doing? Like, I want to be a part of that. And also but really on a practical stance, it was the private to semi-private areas that allowed the conference room to be closer to the reception area, because usually you would escort the client directly into the conference room after waiting, and you didn't want them to walk in all these offices. But, here it's going to be a little bit different, which works. So I would recommend along the walls of the windows, and then your open workstations would be in the larger open areas.
Got you. So basically open
exactly how you have it. Yep. Got
you. Sweet. So I'm so glad I got you on the podcast, Olivia, so I could get all that free info. That was the goal the whole time. No, I just kind of wanted to get a sense for how your mind works on these things, and I guess it seems that if anyone wants general advice, you're always willing to give it.
Absolutely.
So
it's going to cost $1 million.
It's $1 million. 1 million, instantly millionaire. So for anyone that's listening that owns a commercial space or a residential space, wow, I can't talk. And they're like, you know what? Olevia Nguyen sounds like the absolute best interior designer, or at the very least, extremely good interior designer. Where can they find you? How can they contact you? And
the best way to reach us is on Instagram. So you're going to go to Vero_interiors.htx.
Okay, awesome. So Instagram's the best. Nowhere else.
We also have a Facebook.
Okay.
And they can also reach us by email, which
Okay.
I'll give you that info.
Got you. Awesome. Well, I'll give it to the magic man over there, Gonzalo. He always makes it appear on the screen. I just assume that it's magic because I don't want to even. Yeah, this goddamn wizard. So I appreciate having you on the show. Thank you for kind of going over how to essentially become an interior designer, your struggles, and what it takes to really hustle in that space and get clientele. And for those who are listening because they love Texas tea or just now love Texas tea, not just the drink, but our podcast, you now, since this is in Houston, go to Facebook and go to Space City Success, and that's our group on Facebook, and you can talk about this podcast, ask any questions, or go to our YouTube, obviously Texas Tea Podcast. Down in the comments below, you can ask Olevia any question, and I'm sure she'll be happy to ask or answer it. And if you can't find us that way, we always take smoke signals because we have this amazing glass over here. We'll see it all the way across to Houston. Once again, thanks for coming on the show, Olevia. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And until next time, keep that tea piping hot.